slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. Hello, beautiful light beings. Welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Courtney Almondala. Welcome to my channel. And if you like what you see, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. So today we are going to be talking about embracing loneliness. Yes, I said it, embracing it. That dreadful, painful feeling that comes from feeling lonely. So let's first talk about the difference between being alone and being lonely, because those are two different things. So being alone is just a state of being. It is, we're by ourselves, no one's around, that's a fact. But being lonely is an emotion that comes when, or an emotion of sadness that comes when we don't feel connected. And so I've had friends, and even in some of my experiences, where they're in an unhappy relationship and they stay because they don't want to feel lonely and they'd rather stick it out because of that. Or, they break up and they move on to the next person very quickly because same thing. They don't want to feel that painful feeling of feeling lonely or being lonely. And, they've gotten so comfortable with, and sometimes the people who do stick around, they've gotten so comfortable with that person that they sacrifice their own happiness to stay with them because they don't want to feel those emotions. So who can relate? I can for sure. And I was watching a TED Talk. It was a really, really good TED Talk. So I will leave the link below so you guys can check that out. But what the speaker was talking about was how we all need to practice emotional aid. And he was talking about how loneliness creates a deep psychological wound. And it makes us afraid to reach out. And that loneliness depends on whether we feel emotionally and socially disconnected. I believe that everything is energy, that we emit a certain frequency, that we are souls having a human experience through these bodies, and that we came here to earth to remember that. So I believe loneliness is more than the physical. It boils down to us not feeling fully connected to our soul, our true spirit, our authentic selves. So we seek outside sources to help fill that void. So we may reach out to that ex, or hang out with that friend we don't align with, or go to that event we don't really feel like going to because we are bored and lonely. And what happens is it makes it even worse because we come back home or we realize that we are still unfulfilled. I reference Eat, Pray, Love a lot. I have the book. I've watched the movie several times. I love Elizabeth Gilbert. And I remember reading the book, or maybe it was a movie, and the quote about embracing loneliness stuck with me. And what she says in the book, she's talking to herself and she says, when I get lonely these days, I think, so be lonely, Liz. Learn your way around loneliness. Make a map of it. Sit with it for once in your life. Welcome to the human experience. But never again use another person's body or emotions as a scratching post for your unfulfilled yearning. Woo, that is so deep. I always go back and reference that every time I'm feeling lonely and I want to embrace loneliness. I go back to that quote because it is so true. If you're feeling lonely, know that is an opportunity to sit with yourself in silence and really get to know who you are. Not what other people think you are, not what your family thinks you are, not what the world thinks you are. You really have to go inward and find what resonates with you. When we find ourselves feeling lonely, we can look at it, again, as an opportunity to get to know ourselves, to build a strong relationship with ourselves so that when we are ready to go out and connect and communicate with people, we have a strong sense of who we are and what we want. And we're engaging in activities and events because we want to. And that leads to having more meaningful conversations with people because we're coming from a pure, intentional space and we've done the work. We've let the emotions of loneliness process through us instead of pushing them down. Negative emotions can be our biggest teacher because we have a choice of transferring those negative emotions to positive ones. And when we do that, they no longer can control, they no longer have control over us. We really have to understand that loneliness is going to come and go in our lives. It is not a permanent emotion, even though it may feel like it. It may feel like you're never going to get out of it. It is temporary. And even when you decide to go down something like a spiritual path, it can certainly get quite lonely. I know, so a lot of people that haven't been there yet are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I reach enlightenment, or, oh yeah, I want to go down this path. I had so much peace and so much, but there's a lot of sad and lonely feelings you get on a spiritual path. So, and especially when it comes to something like a spiritual awakening. So a spiritual awakening is the process of discovering who you truly are. And in discovering who you truly are, you wake up out of this thing called the matrix. So the matrix aims to control, manipulate our thoughts, feelings, and existence so that we don't remember who we are. So we start to wake up, when you have a spiritual awakening, you start to wake up or awaken to the conditioning, the lies that we're told about ourselves, the fear-driven realities, and we start seeking the truth. And when the truth is revealed, it can be harsh, painful, uncomfortable, and lonely. I have struggled with loneliness and still struggle with it. I personally experienced a deep state of loneliness and depression in my first stages of my awakening. I felt like I couldn't relate to anyone. I felt like no one understood me because they couldn't see what I was seeing. I was in this transitional period and feeling empty and trying to navigate. So one day I was in this negative loop that I couldn't get out of, and I was feeling really sad. So I went outside in my backyard. I laid on my hammock and I was swinging back and forth, asking for guidance on how I could process these emotions. How I was saying to myself, how can I shake this? These feelings are so uncomfortable. I feel so lonely. I want to feel better. I looked up in the trees after finishing that thought, and there were 3 balloons. 2 were blue and 1 was red. And it immediately made me think of the red pill, blue pill analogy. So most of you know about this, but I will explain if some of you haven't. So Neo is being presented with the red pill, he's being presented with 2 pills. So it's either take the red pill, which is the uncomfortable truth, or the blue pill, stay in an ignorant bliss. And a light bulb went off and I had an aha moment. Seeing the balloons and thinking about that analogy helped me to relate to what I was going through, which made it all click. So my awakening showed me some uncomfortable truths. I wanted to unsee everything and go back to normal. I thought my life was so much better when I didn't know. Those were that was the thought that was going through my mind. But actually, I realized it wouldn't be beneficial to my growth or to humanity to take the blue pill and to stay in the ignorance, because to change something is to see its darkness first so we can shine light on it. And that even though it may feel uneasy you may feel out of place, I was feeling out of place, you're actually on the right path. I'm still looking at the balloons in the tree while receiving this message. And I also noticed that the balloons are all tied together on the same string, so it looks like. But the 2 blue balloons are partnered together, side by side, and the red balloon is a little higher on its own. I interpreted that as you are never alone, because you are part of a never-ending string that is connected to everything. And that sometimes it may feel lonely because you are deciding to go down a different path. Not everyone will understand you. They may even be angry or upset at the choices you make or the opinions you have. But that is okay. And you are okay, because not everyone will awaken at the same time. Keep sticking to your truth and you will find people who are going through it or have already been through it and can support you in ways you thought were never possible. So embrace loneliness. And in those states, when you are feeling down, do things that raise your vibration. Maybe go to the beach, or take a walk outside to get fresh air, or try that ice cream spot that you've always been wanting to try, or bake your favorite dessert, or sit out on your front porch and watch people pass by. You will start to enjoy your own company. And I want to leave you with a poem called Lonely from my first self-published poetry book called Ready to Evolve. Poems about heartbreak, healing, and happiness on the path towards self-love. And I will put the link to the book if you are interested in getting a copy. And so let's get to it. Absence. I knew that word all too well. I was used to the ones I loved being unavailable. But this type of lonely was when no one was around. That uneasy at the pit of your stomach sadness. That no one understands me, I feel so empty. Letting go of the falseness I held onto for far too long. Allowing space for more realness, more meaning. I was so far detached from my true essence, I used being alone as a way to escape from my higher self. Now I move through life with grace. I stopped yearning for someone to fill me up, started pouring into my own cup, enjoying who I am, and realizing solitude is a necessity for self-love. See you soon.